Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing all the books that I read in the month of March. Luckily for me, March ended up being a much better reading month than February. I definitely started off really slow and maybe didn't read as much as I was hoping to, but I feel like I'm slowly getting out of my slump and I was able to do some good content. So all in all, a pretty good reading month, and I'm excited to discuss the books that I read. So first off, I want to hold up this chunk of books. So I currently just finished up a reading vlog. Like literally, it's the last clip that I filmed right before I started this one. This video is going to come out before that reading vlog, so I don't want to discuss the books too much, but it's a really exciting reading vlog. But for that reading vlog, I read Ophelia After All by Raquel Marie, and this is a YA contemporary novel about a high school senior named Ophelia, who's always been the girl who falls in love with everybody, who falls in love with every boy, is just boy crazy, and it's her experience falling in love with a girl or crushing on a girl for the first time. This is much more a story about a character like having an emotional spiral and dealing with a lot of friendship drama more than a romance. So keep that in mind, but I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars, and I have more of my thoughts and opinions in that reading vlog to come. And then I have The Poison Heart by Caitlin Barron, which I gave a 3.75 stars to. This is the first book in a YA duology, and it is paranormal fantasy, contemporary fantasy. It is about a young girl who was adopted from a young age and doesn't know much about her family, and she seems to have mysterious floral powers. Like she can control plants and plants interact with her, which cause all types of problems for her. But one day she learns that her birth family has left her an estate, and so her and her moms decide to go up to the estate for the summer, and there they start to discover some of the secrets of her family and of her abilities. And I really enjoyed this. It was fast-paced, it kept me engaged, I thought the characters were really compelling, the magic, the world was really interesting, and again, I will have my thoughts and opinions in that reading vlog to come. And the last book I'm going to talk about from that reading vlog is The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake, and this is the second book in the Atlas 6 series. I actually don't know what this series is called, but this is a continuation of what happened in the first book, obviously, but this series follows 6 individuals who are elected to come to this secret society, and there they are facing dangerous tasks that they have to complete, including possibly having to kill one of the other members of the society. And I didn't love this. I discussed more of my thoughts, opinions in that reading vlog to come. I hopefully will be more in depth there, but this was like a 2.5 stars for me. I really struggled with this one. So those are 3 of the books that I read for that reading vlog. Try and guess if you can see what my theme was, because there was a theme, but I don't know if it's obvious. I'm guessing it's not obvious what it is. So let's get into the books that I read outside that reading vlog. So 2 of the books I read were a part of the Haikyu manga series. This is a volleyball shonen manga, and it's following basically a volleyball team, but it's focused in on our 2 main characters, which are Hinata and Kageyama, but mostly Hinata, as they struggle to lift this into a volleyball championship team. This is one of my favorite sports series of all time. It's just so well done, balanced between technique, comedy, heartfelt conversations, characters, character dynamics, character growth. It's honestly so well done, and these 2 volumes follow the summer training arc, which, if you know Haikyu, that is a very important and well-loved training sequence, character arc, and so this was completely enjoyable. Both of these were 5 stars. It's one of my favorite arcs in the series as well, and I'm just loving reading Haikyu so much. I'm trying to read it all before the movie, but let's see how I do with that. The final book that I read this month was Babel by R.F. Kuang. I can't believe I read this entire chunky thing physically. Like, this is a lot, but I did it. So this is like a historical, slightly fantastical, paranormal fantasy type novel where we're following our main character of Robin, who has basically been kind of given this ultimatum at a very young age that he can either live in squalor in his home of Canton, China, or he can travel with this mysterious professor and become a linguist, a magical linguist. And so he obviously travels to London and is kind of under the tutelage of this, again, mysterious professor, and from there continues to face a lot of hardships, training, and getting into this magical academy in Oxford, England. This book is really interesting. It's really slow paced, and it almost reads like a historical novel or a historical text. It reminds me a lot of that Dickinson era, Bronte era of builders romance novels and writings, which is, it's just so interesting that this novel takes place during that time period, and it really reflects like the authorial style that you see in a lot of those novels. So it's very slow paced. It's very focused, especially on the beginning, on Robin's passiveness, on like events just happening to Robin. The last 150 pages, 200 pages of this novel are insane, but it definitely is a very slow paced novel in the first chunk. And I enjoyed this. I think it's really well crafted. I think that R.F. Kuang knew the kind of story she wanted to write and had a way to achieve it and fully utilized that. For me personally, I didn't love the footnotes just because I wanted them to add more to the story. And this novel feels almost like a historical novel or a historical text, and so to have footnotes and to have like almost narrator author asides, I wish that that had been more utilized, that we kind of knew more about the person that was writing this text and how they knew things about Robin and what he was thinking and stuff. The other thing about the author is that he tells us from the get-go that this friend group is going to break up, and so that like slow car crash kind of narrative really works well. It brings a lot of tension, but also it definitely made it hard for me to fully fall in love with this friend group and like trust them, I guess. I really felt sympathy towards Robin because we really do see his whole life, and I really liked all of his friends. But one, we don't get a lot about each character kind of until the end of the novel where things are revealed about them. And also we really jump into this friendship where they instantly kind of connect with each other because they have to rely on each other. So I personally had a hard time like kind of connecting with all the friends. I wanted to see more scenes of them in person. A lot of this book is told almost through like a narrative style where we don't get a ton of scenes, or those scenes are kind of narratively wrapped up instead. It's hard because I do think R.F. Kuang was really purposeful with where she put each character's stories and how she developed the stories and like why the friends came together the way that they did and everything. But for me, on like a personal level, it wasn't like my personal favorite way of interacting with this group. I wanted a little bit more closeness. So that's all to say is that this novel was very purposeful. I feel like R.F. Kuang was able to achieve exactly what she set out to do. And all in all, I do think this is a really great novel. So I gave this a solid 4 stars, and I'm excited to check out her other works because I have not read them yet. So would I have liked to have read more? Sure. But I read some chunky books in there, some slower paced novels, so I'm pretty happy with what I read. And I have the Magical Readathon coming up next month, as well as my own planned TBRs, so a lot of fun stuff coming into the month of April, and some other personal stuff I have to deal with as well coming up, so a lot to look forward to. I'm excited to get hopefully out of my reading slump, but those were all the books that I read for the month of March. Let me know what you read this month, what you enjoyed. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.